Real quick, I just wanted to introduce the results of this experiment. This is the little box I managed to make out of the little scrap pieces. It could have been finished better and done a little better, but this was basically a prototype and an experiment. So stay tuned and we'll talk about the material, and I'll show you how I made this and what we had to do to get it done. I just wanted to cover how I'm handling the material for this project. This is kind of an experiment. What I've got is 6 different woods. There's various kinds of wood in there. There's some poplar, there's some mahogany, there's some ash. I'm not sure what all of it is, but what I've done, I've cut all these more or less the same size on the scroll saw, and I've stacked them in the order that I want them to go. I'd like to have some darker woods to get some better contrast, but this is what I've got right now, and I'm just going to see what I can do with this. And I may order some specific colors of wood later on to do something a little more spectacular. But this is the scrap I had left over out of this that I could match up and get the same combination of layers. And I've glued these together. I'm going to clean up the sides, probably on the table saw, and then I'm going to go to the scroll saw and I'm going to cut these. I'm going to try to make perfect cubes. That adds up to about 1.5 inches, but I'm going to try to cut them the same dimensions on the other 2 sides, so I'll have all those little cubes that then I can glue back together in various configurations to see what kind of effects I can get. And I'm going to try to make a box out of this, and we're going to see how this looks. And it may look weird, it may look nice, but this is an experiment, and like I say, I'd rather have some darker woods to get a better contrast. But this is what I'm going to go with for now, because that's what I've got. Well, I'm kind of in step 2, maybe 3 of this experiment. Laminated the leftover pieces. This is the larger pieces I haven't laminated yet. I'm going to work with this first, see how this works out, what it's going to look like, if I'm going to like it or not. But what I did is I laminated those and cut them into approximately 1.5 inch cubes. Made them as close to the same as I could, then glued them together in this pattern individually and sanded them to fit as I went. So now what I'm going to do, I've marked about 3/16 there. I'm going to go with the bandsaw because that's too thick for a scroll saw. It's a little over 2.5 inches, about 4.5 inches long, 4 1/4, and it's about 1.5 inches thick this way. So I'm going to try to cut that off with a bandsaw, if I can get it to cut properly and straight, and make that the bottom of the box. And then I've got 2 contrasting pieces of wood to make a lid for it. But I'm gonna make a little divided box here. I kind of got something in mind. I'm gonna just hand draw the pattern, and this is kind of an experiment. I'm just gonna play with this a little bit. I just basically want to see what this looks like when I make a box out of it, and I may do something larger, a little more involved when I get to that point. But I'm going to see how this works before I start putting all this wood together. So I'm going to get this to the bandsaw and see if I can cut that bottom off. I used a marking gauge to scribe me a line. I want a 1/4 inch wall on this box. I've cut the bottom off of it. That's going to be the bottom. And I've sanded all this down where it will match up nice and flat. May have to do a little more work on that once we get it together, but now I'm going to try to do me a little angle wall across there. I'll come across at an angle from corner to corner. Kind of freehand this. Something about a 1/4 inch wide. I have to be exact, just kind of approximation there. going to find me something. I'm going to round these corners a little bit. And hang on, I'll go find something to do that with. So I'm going to use this little lid off of a cube of silicone. I just want to round those a little. I don't know about doing it here. Let's see how that's going to look. We'll draw it. We don't have to cut it. Yeah, let's see about that's going to leave a lot of material out. Let's just leave it like that for now. Not sure I like that. This is all an experiment. I can round that. Maybe I can get me a little smaller diameter. Hang on a minute. So I used the end of a marking gauge, rounded that corner off a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to drill me an entry hole for that. Take it to scroll saw, and that'll be the only internal cuts. And what I'm going to do, I've got two contrasting woods here, and I'm going to cut the lid to kind of match. I'm going to make it half and half on there, half dark like this and this, and attach, make the lid like that. I'm just kind of experimenting with some scrap here. And it may not look like anything when I get through, but may not even be very utilitarian, but I'm just trying to see what I can do with mixing and matching these scraps and what I get out of it. So let me drill some holes and we'll move to the scroll saw. Here we're going to cut the interior of this box. Got a number 5 blade checked for squareness to the table. So here we go. We're going to cut this out real quick. So I stopped to change that blade. I had a 5 in there, and it was having some trouble. I was trying to cut a little too fast. There's several different types of wood in there, and you're going between cross grain and rip cuts, and it was really having some trouble. It was getting hot. It even started to smoke a little bit. So I thought I'd go with a fresher blade, a little larger blade, and I'll cut a little slower. Well, I drew that ink line mainly for the camera. I was going to cut by the gauge line, which is what I did. The ink didn't follow the line perfectly in every place. So I'm going to take that pattern off, do a little sanding, and glue the bottom back on it and see kind of how that looks, and then design a lid for it. Well, I've done a little bit of light sanding, got rid of some burn marks and little fuzzies and what have you there. So now I'm going to glue this on, and then it'll be more sanding to do when I get there, but this is the next step. Glue that on, let it set a little while. Make sure I got those matching back up where they cut off. Still got a lot of sanding and work to do on it, but this is kind of what I was looking for, an effect I was looking for. I'm not unhappy with it at this point as an experiment. Now I'm going to work on a lid for it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these two contrasting pieces of wood together, and I'm going to cut them where the seam will be right on that cross piece there, and then figure out how to mount them. I'll see what kind of hardware I've got or what I can do, but I'll get that glued together first, and then we'll go from there. I got to sand this up and clean it up. So I've done a little minor preliminary cleanup on the box. I still got some sanding and all to do, but really what I'm after in this was the effect of the internal look of the box. So what I've done, I've glued these two pieces together. I'm going to make a lid. I laid me a straight edge through here, and right through there, and marked the edges of the corners of the box and carried it over a little bit, and then lined those marks up on that seam and then drew the box out. That's the pattern I'm going to use. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I'm going to take that scroll saw and cut it on the outside of that line, and then sand it down to fit and see how to mount it on there. So I'm going to take the scroll saw now and cut it. Probably won't film that. That'd be a real quick cut. So what I got here, I cut this out. It's a little extra large because I want to sand it down to fit. What I'm going to do for mounting is I cut the tops off of these pieces that came out of here. And I'm going to drop these in. Then I'm going to put a little something there, kind of like spring-like on that, and hold that up and glue this lid onto that then. So let me find a little something, something like a business card or piece of cardboard real thin that I can just lay in there, just to give me a little bit of, make it stand a little bit proud right there, and but it'll still be in the hole, so it'll match. So let me find me something to put in there, and I'll glue that on. Then there will be a bunch of sanding to go through. Okay, so what I've done, I got a little piece of 1/16 inch cedar. That'll hold that up just enough to make it proud of the hole, but still line up in the hole. And then I can glue that in there. Still have my marks out here to line up. Put it on there. That looks pretty good right there. I'll let that sit a few minutes and get tacky. I'll just make sure I don't glue the whole thing down to the body of the box. But I'm going to let that get tacky, and then I'll take it off and clamp it lightly and let it set, and then I'll round the top of that box and sand it down to fit and put a finish on it, and we'll see what the final product will look like. So here's the prototype completed first try. This is kind of an experiment. I'm going to try to come up with some other box, a little larger box. This was just to see how this would work. I'm fairly pleased with it. When I got the, I put Danish oil on it, you can see how much different it makes. It brings out the pattern a little better. Give it a week or two, I could put a sealing coat on that and make it really shine. I don't know if I will, because this was just a test run to see how this would work. But what I did a lot of sanding on this to match everything up. Sanded the lid. And I used the top of these internal pieces, of course, to attach the lid. And I had to trim those a little bit, even the way I glued it in. I had to trim them, make everything fit properly. It'll only go on one way. That's all right. Everything matches. I'm going to redesign my layering of wood. I'm going to make a little different thickness. I'm going to come out with a little better plan. I plan ahead a little further than I did with this one. This was just a play by ear, off the cuff type of thing. But I'm going to do another box. I'm going to plan ahead a little better for the thickness and the layering. That turned out okay. I'd like more contrast, but this is what I've got right now, so I'm going to go with it. I'm going to add some and I'm going to try to make a thicker original thickness. I'm going to add some more layers to that. So anyway, we'll call this good for now. And hopefully next week I'll have a little different design, a little larger box, a little cleaner made. This one has got lots of bumps on it, things that could be done better, but I wasn't trying for perfection here. I just wanted to see if I could do this and how it would look. So if you like that, I'm gonna do more experimenting. And if you like that, well, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, notifications, so you'll know when I post them. And I'm going to try to go off on a tangent on some of this stuff. I like boxes, but I'm going to try to make my own designs, even create my own material for it. And I got some other ideas too, so stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you in the next one.